Looks like we're recording, and I'm really excited to have my good friend Michelle Del Cueto on the program. Michelle, as you can see on the screen, is DXC's international coordinator. She's also a great photographer as well. And we've been friends, I guess, now like 2 years, but you were actually one of the first people that I encountered when it was actually Matt Johnson flew me out to California a couple years ago to take a look at the press team. So
Mhm.
basically my first arrival.
To potentially own DXC's press, which is a high stakes role.
High stakes role. Yeah, it was
Like you have to give your everything, your nights and
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, it was impressive too because like coming into town and just to see the work ethic of you and Matt and at that time Matt was living with Wayne, so I got to see how much everybody was working all the time.
Yeah.
I actually got to know Oliver too at that time. That was a good time. But I still
Yeah.
remember the first night driving in, or not driving in, sorry, flying in. And then I
Mhm.
walked to y'all's place because you're not that far from the train station. And then it was really late when I got there, but it was so cool to meet you and Matt. And we had just like a really um, we became really quick friends. I thought we basically hung out for like the whole week, most of the time.
Eating, sleeping,
Yeah, eating and
going to
sleeping.
Sacramento and then back.
Let's talk about your story and how long have you been involved at DXC?
Yep. So I've been involved with DXC since 2017. It all
Mm-hmm.
started in July.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it was actually today, the 22nd of July of 2017. I came to visit Kitty Jones, who I met in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
And, we met doing activism in Mexico City because she loved going back and forth from Berkeley to Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I came here thinking, well, I'm gonna go visit for 2 weeks. My friend Kitty, because she was like, you have to come to Berkeley, like you must come. And those 2 weeks turned into 5 months where I just couldn't leave the Bay Area because I was
Oh
so
yeah.
fucking excited about everything that DXC was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the first actions that I did in my life in a way of like a slaughterhouse occupation or an open rescue was
Mm-hmm.
with DXC. So yeah, since then I've been passionately dedicated to work for animal
For
rights with DXC.
yeah. So did you tell me before that you were heading DXC in Mexico City?
Yeah, so after those 5 months, I came back to Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
Reactivated the chapter because it started 2 years before that. They did some actions and then it went inactive. So I reactivated it with activists that I knew from from the past in Mexico City. And yeah, and we started doing actions by like the like 4 months after, like I came back from Berkeley and we were organizing with Mexico City. We did a slaughterhouse occupation, an open
Mm-hmm.
rescue. Uh, Wayne constantly mentions that when
Oh yeah.
we are in between discussions with other people, he's like, "Oh, remember this thing? That was amazing." And yeah, I mean, in some way, it's not that common to see in Latin America or other countries to see these type of actions. And I think that direct action is something that should be super elevated in these countries where it's very challenging because the political system in these places or even the laws, like how they work, could be so challenging for you to just say, oh, I'm just going to glue myself to the entrance of this slaughterhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Things just don't work out the same way as in the United States. Like the United States has a lot of challenges,
Mm-hmm.
in the prison system, and in general, like how the laws could work differently if you're an immigrant or not. But yeah, I mean, definitely that action taught us. me and other organizers in Mexico City, which all happen to be women, we learned a lot. We were able to rescue five chickens from a chicken slaughterhouse, like minutes before being
Oh,
slaughtered.
oh, wow.
And as we know, those animals, that specific breed, Cornish, just have a lot of damage from the industry, from all the breeding
Yeah.
and the modification, right? For their bodies to be so huge. So, they don't live more than a year or months.
Hmm.
So it's, yeah, definitely really challenging animals. Uh,
That was your first open rescue that you did?
yeah, in Mexico City. I mean, from our chapter, it wasn't in Mexico City, it was in state of Mexico, which is
Hmm.
literally the state that surrounds Mexico City.
Mm.
And like, that's where the periphery, a lot of the soda houses, a lot of general industry, um, yeah, factories and stuff like that. That's
Mm.
where we usually did vigils and this occupation and open rescue and the investigations too, because actually there we also knew from a horse slaughterhouse. So yeah, just definitely a very dark place with a lot of horrible violence.
Mm.
Also, it's a state where femicide and crimes against women and girls is huge. Like, it's horrible violence just happening with a lot of women, and there's no
Yeah.
justice. And yeah, it's also
Yeah.
challenging to be a woman and be just facing yourself to workers or owners of these facilities that
Hmm.
sometimes are related to politicians or to narcos. And these people are just not gonna come to you and give you a citation or arrest you. They are gonna fucking pick you up, and like, you might be dead. They
Yeah.
could kill you and just throw you in the
Well,
streets.
so what makes you, because that sounds terrifying. What makes you so brave that you are able to, confront this and say, like, I am going to do this regardless of the danger, regardless of the risk.
I mean, I feel that being a woman already is a challenge,
Mm.
against the
Mhm.
world every day.
Mm.
I feel that it's like, well, you have to learn how to fight and defend yourself and defend animals and defend other, people in your life that are important.
Mhm.
I feel that this is something common that we can see in the movement in Mexico City. Like, there's a lot of very committed people that are just ready to risk their life. Like, I feel that people here is like, okay, you're risking your life because you're getting arrested and you're going to prison for years. And I feel that in other countries, these consequences and this sacrifice could come in such different ways. At some point, like, hey, I might die for doing this,
Mhm.
which I guess is also common because, farmers could have guns, and even here in the United States, you can get easily shot.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah, I
Although it
think we
hasn't
take the
happened, I don't. There have been a few activists that have been killed, mostly by trucks. Like Regan Russell
yeah,
up in
yeah, yeah,
Canada.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. And Jill Phipps, I think in
Yeah, yeah,
UK. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah.
yeah, activism isn't without risks, but for the most part, people have been safe. Was it scary for you to do that open rescue, or
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah. We just didn't know what to expect, but we were
Yeah.
ready. We
Mm.
trained people. I mean, I don't know if this is illegal, so maybe I shouldn't be disclosing that information,
Maybe
but
I have
just
to
to say
edit.
that we prepare ourselves as best. You
Hmm.
have to really know in some way how the law could work. And
Right.
again, in Mexico, it's just very complicated. Sometimes with police, you could expect that they are going to be chill. They might try to bribe you, they might try to punish you and like abduct you and just
Oh,
kill
wow.
you. Or so, yeah, I don't know. I feel that I cannot talk about how other activists take the courage to do
Hmm.
what they did and participate in that open rescue with me and other, like there was a total of us of 80 activists, so just thinking that 80 people just said, fuck it, I'm ready to be arrested.
Hmm.
We are blocking the slaughter line, and there's no more killing happening while we are here.
Hmm.
So people were just ready because people see that what is happening to animals is so daring that you put your body.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you intervene basically. Um, so uh when did you learn about like what was happening to animals? Was that something that you learned at a young age, or um how did you basically come to become an animal rights activist?
Yeah, so for me in the MySpace area, I used to follow a lot of the bands that I listened at that
Oh, in
moment. A
MySpace.
lot,
Whoa.
yeah, a lot of, before High Five, I was also
Mhm.
High Five. But on MySpace, I follow a lot of the bands because I've always like hardcore, punk, grunge,
Yeah, you
new
do.
metal bands. And also, I followed many from Mexico and in Mexico City and in the state of Mexico, where many of the bands that I've loved at that age were from. So I visited this MySpace from this band called Alguna vez fui ciego, which is I once was blind, and they
Mm.
were a straight edge. They were actually like X, the name X,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
they've had earthlings showing on their MySpace, and a lot of their songs, which had political content, was very focused about animal rights, and that's how I saw that documentary. That
Mm.
was, of course, like fucking horrible and triggering.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, I've always was very interested in animals, and in Mexico City there's a huge issue with stray animals, both cats and dogs. So many thousands of animals in the streets,
Mm.
just living under horrible conditions. So I think that they were also the ones that started to taught me how I cared about animals and how I wanted them to be happy and safe and free, as corny as that sound.
Hmm.
But yeah, and then I guess I just started to question myself about eating animals, and I guess also animals in the cosmetic and experimentation industries that has to do with a lot of the shit that we consume.
Yeah.
um yeah,
Wow.
so it came like that until I was later decided to say, okay, I'm gonna just kind of be vegan.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow, that's really a cool story. So this band, it was I Once Was Blind. So are they still around?
No, I don't think
No.
so. I mean, they are all alive. I hope so.
Hmm. Hmm.
But they are not playing.
Not still a band. Right, right.
It's a band from 2005, 2008.
Hmm.
Many of the bands that I like are from that decade, but they don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. There were a lot of bands that were like into the straight edge vegan animal rights scene back in, I guess, what the
Yeah, since the 80s.
yeah, the 80s basically.
Yeah, that's been definitely one of the political issues to speak about. Same with feminism.
Yeah, it's too bad that music has kind of lost that tie to animal
I
rights.
disagree.
You think it still has that tie or
Yeah, I mean, I feel that these bands have never been popular, have never been bands
mm,
that you heard in MTV. Maybe some could have,
mhm, mhm,
but I feel that the bands are out there.
mm.
Um, it's just like they are playing at small venues
Yeah, you should tell
or
me some of
just,
the names of those bands because I don't know many and I'm always looking for that. I did really like the Moby documentary he did about punk rock and animal rights. That was pretty
I
cool. So
haven't
I
seen
got to
it.
know. Oh, really? It's on YouTube. It's called Punk Rock Vegan Movie or something like that. You would like it a lot. It's really
Yeah.
cool. Um,
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
yeah, most of the bands that he's talking about are bands that I don't think are really still active anymore. Um, there was like AFI. I liked AFI. Did you really like AFI back in the day?
AFI is actually active. They have
Yeah,
been
they are.
playing, but they took a break and then toured again. But I couldn't go because usually my
Uh,
life is very tied to
yeah.
DXC trials,
Mm,
and usually my favorite bands have been coming to play to Berkeley, which is very weird because they usually go to San Francisco, which I kind of hate to go. It's
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
expensive. Parking sucks. The hills. But just to say that, yeah, they've been coming to play to Berkeley, so close. But then we're like, okay, DX's midfield trial in Utah now. DX's trial in Sonoma that is gonna last 3 months, and
Yeah.
you know,
You're sometimes able to go see a show here and there, right? When you're on trial. I know you go
yeah,
with Almira, you go with probably Kitty too, right? You guys go see some shows.
yeah. No, I have the best boss in the world because I could go to hardcore shows
Yeah.
with my boss.
Yeah, that's
Because
pretty cool.
she happens to be one of the few people in DXC that like the music that I like. Like other people are like, oh, screams and I cannot deal with that.
I
Like
know. I wish there was one
Curtis,
during Sonoma that we could have gone to, but I don't think anything happened, right? Maybe there was something. It
yeah,
was pretty
I don't
busy.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well,
So.
I also went vegan after watching Earthlings, and I guess you were watching like snippets from a band. And I mean, I think one of the
Well,
powerful things,
I watched the whole documentary
did you say they had it like on their MySpace background or something? Or
because you could put YouTube, MySpace, the way you decorated it is like you put songs, you
hmm
also put videos and YouTube videos,
yeah,
and Earthlings was in YouTube. I think it's still in YouTube.
yeah, it
So
is. Yeah, I'm gonna
on,
link to that. Yeah, I remember I used to have a MySpace too, and I made it really artistic. I had I liked you
yeah,
could have music playing and you could have a
a
cool
nice photo
background.
from like the hair and like looking up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, so the first like 15, 20 minutes of Earthlings is talking about and linking animal rights to all of these other struggles for human rights, like uh, women's liberation, black rights, gay rights. It's talking about all these forms of oppression and then linking in speciesism, which was a new term to me, and I think a new term to a lot of people. But I think because you are already someone who is focused on feminism, then you were someone who was like sort of primed to um, take in issues of oppression and sort of embody them. Would you say that that's the case? Sorry, I know that was terribly worded.
No, I think it was
You throw me off,
perfectly
Michelle.
said.
Yeah, perfectly
No,
said.
no, no.
Yeah.
I think you perfectly said it. And again, because as humans, we are just dealing with other like oppression issues that again I've seen in many videos
hmm
from animal rights activists saying, remember when like racism and sexism was a thing when they are trying to interview other people in the street. Like I think that this interview was like black people in the street being interviewed by a white person saying, when racism, we had racism, and what we did with racism, we abolish it, and that's what we need to do now with animal rights.
hmm
And it's like, no, like we haven't abolished it. Like,
hmm hmm
just haven't you looked around and noticed the issues that are happening, the corruption, the murders, uh, imprisonment, just
hmm
homelessness, like suicide, all these horrible things happening to black people and to immigrants and to women and girls and just saying that. That's why I feel that whenever you're someone that just say, oh yeah, I can only focus on animal rights, it's like, yeah, I'm working every single day for animal rights with
Hmm. Hmm.
DXC and with my photography and other things that I do. But not because of that, I just erase myself as a woman who is also fighting for
Right,
women's
right.
rights,
Yeah,
immigrants' rights. Like
yeah.
whistleblowers, like most of the whistleblowers are immigrants, are
Hmm.
people who have no rights, who are under slavery contracts in the United States,
Yeah.
in
So you,
Australia, in the
yeah.
UK. So how can
Hmm.
you be someone that can just easily say there's no slavery for humans? There's like, that's just like,
Hmm. Well, I've never seen anybody say that ever. I've never seen that before. So I don't know. You should point me to an
I've
example
seen
of
it
that.
in,
Well, I've seen
no,
people
I mean,
say,
I
like that,
there's
we
so
abolished
many
slavery.
influencers. There's so
Hmm.
many influencers and people who create YouTube videos of
Mm,
this that you could look,
mm.
that
Well,
will give you some
yeah.
examples.
Yeah, well, I see people talking about how they abolished slavery and how we viewed that as wrong, how
See?
we viewed women not having the right to vote as wrong. But I agree with them. It is wrong, you know. So I think that what they're just trying to do is just to link animal rights to those things. But I don't
Yeah.
know the specific
Which
example you're
that's
talking about.
right, because
Yeah.
it is a good is to say, hey, like all these movements have these similarities in the way that we are being oppressed. But I've heard a lot of the statement of we
Like it's
need to
over.
just focus in speciesism because the
Mm,
others we succeeded, we have
mm.
moved away from that, we succeeded, let's go to just
Oh, I
that.
see.
And
I
that's why
see.
they
Yeah.
are saying let's just do animal rights, and I'm just an animal rights person and I don't care
Hmm.
about
Mm.
these issues that are happening.
Oh, I see. I see. Oh, okay.
They
Well,
are
I'll
not
just
as important.
Oh,
Or
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, so for me personally, as someone who focuses like primarily on animal rights, I'll just say that I don't think that those issues aren't important. I just think that for me personally, where I can be effective is like speaking out for animals, just because I don't see as many people speaking up for animals as they do human rights issues. And I guess the main thing that I would say, in defense of just focusing on animal rights is what I do is that the people who are being oppressed, at the very least, most of them can at least speak out for themselves. Not that they will succeed, but they at least like have a voice where the animals don't have a voice. And so there's so few people who focus on animal rights, or I guess there are a lot of people who focus on dogs and cats, but
yeah,
for farm
yeah,
animals, like, yeah,
yeah.
that's just what I would say
But
about
I guess
that.
that's good too. Like sometimes it's just good to focus
Yeah,
um
yeah, for sure.
in
Yeah.
issues, and I'm not, I guess, condemning, oh you only are about animal right, or
Well,
like,
you're
oh
my
you're a,
yeah, yeah.
like, oh that's not good enough, or I don't know. But
Well, like
I
it,
think we're in the same page. I guess I'm just
I
talking
think
about my
so.
perspective
Yeah,
of
I
how
think
sometimes you cannot be as polarizing,
right. I
because
think
as humans things are not like that.
right. Well, I think that what you're articulating to me is just like why you're so passionate about these other issues and why you decide I'm not just going to focus only on animal rights, but I also care about all of these other issues, which are
Yeah.
equally important to you as well,
Mhm.
especially like, when you're talking about women's rights or immigrants' rights, because actually they will directly impact you as well. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
guess it's good to recognize, by like, well, yeah, maybe me as a white guy in Australia, definitely racism is just over because I've
oh
never
yeah.
experienced it.
Oh, I know. So now I know
Misogyny
who you're
or
talking
worse
about.
ever.
Right, right. Yeah.
He could
Well, it's
also be
interesting.
a white guy in the United States
No,
or in
no,
Mexico. Like,
no.
it's the same.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, well, I think people can have blind
Or
spots,
rich.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, um, I think, like one thing that I think one thing that is true is that wherever you come from, you're going to have blind spots. Um, So even you will maybe have like blind spots too. For instance, like some of like the issues that people like where I live, like in Appalachia, like some of those people's issues, like they may have issues that you don't know so much about. It's just important for us to speak our own truths and
Of course.
get the word out about oppression wherever we see it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so actually that's a good point more for your side of things. But in terms of like you not staying silent on something when you see oppression, if you do pigeonhole yourself too much into like one movement and decide, well, I'm not going to speak out about X or Y because my main focus is animals, then you may end up missing something very critical. Yeah.
Especially because movements are in some way correlated. Like
Yeah.
we are not gonna, like vegans are not gonna win animal rights victories or groundbreaking systemic changes
Hmm.
without a lot of the population joining our movement. And
Non-vegan.
that's the exit theory of change.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why our focus will never be veganism,
Right,
which is
right.
also something that I strongly feel, and that's
Mhm.
why I found that DX is the best place that I can be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot of people agree with you in that and I agree with you that I think that DXC may be one of the most effective vehicles for systemic change for animals. And that's why I'm involved with DXC. I think I was talking to, it was Natalie Fulton, who was saying like when I sort of
Mhm.
got involved with DXC, I suddenly felt like I'm around people who have like an answer, like they are actually a threat to these animal agriculture industries. Whereas before, and she's actually involved from her street activism. She still does street activism, but she works with Pro Animal Future now, and she's done the
Yeah.
open rescue and um
Yeah, and the ballot, which is also something that
yeah,
we are now focusing a lot in, or like we are starting to focus, but we
yeah,
hope to get a lot of focus because that's also another way to keep
yeah.
winning.
How do you, like on a personal level, how do you like I think you've described as the signature collecting was kind of difficult for you, like just to like converse with people like on a day-to-day basis. That wasn't like something you loved, right?
Yeah, no. No,
Yeah.
and I feel that the thing is like for many of us, like of course, doing a disruption and holding a megaphone and going out and screaming is way sexier and
Mhm, mhm.
indulging and cool, and collecting signatures is boring.
Right.
And it could be really challenging because you're speaking to a lot of people that are going to constantly reject you. And as you
Mhm.
know, animals, you know, as many other animals, we hate rejection. So but that's where we have found to be the most threatening to the industry. That's
Right.
why, the ballot that we have going on right now in Sonoma is just this precious strategy that is really making them sweat, and
Yeah.
at the same time it's the thing that is the less attractive for activists.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah, it was challenging. I sometimes just wanted to cry like, oh, I don't want it to finish. But when I, like, these all these weeks that we have seen the immense obnoxiousness of the opposition in Sonoma,
Mhm.
all these, you know very rich and politically influential people in Sonoma that are, so corrupt, giving money to politicians there, to the board of supervisors, to, the DA. Like, it's all such a vicious, corrupt circle in Sonoma. And that's animal agriculture there.
Yeah.
So when just learning all the stuff that they have been doing, now they, the no one J and all the misinformation that they're saying, like all these people from Berkeley, these outsiders, even though we live like 45 minutes away from each other. But
Mhm.
according to them, we are outsiders, that are just, um, coming and shutting down all our farms in Sonoma,
Our family
like
farms.
our
Yeah.
family farms, our 2,000 family farms all gone. And it's like, no, 21 or certain amount to 21 maximum of
Yeah.
CAFOs, which is huge facilities that have hundreds, like 3 million animals in total every day confined in Sonoma in these
Yeah.
facilities. And
Which I
still,
believe.
like, yeah, and like huge corporate owned, like Purdue,
Mhm.
like
Which most
Petaluma
of the
Poultry.
public is against. They don't like these giant factory farms. So, I mean, the
Yeah,
only way that they can combat what you're doing is to misinform the public about what it is the measure would actually do. And so they've been trying to spread misinformation about which which facilities would be effective, but you can just look at the
mhm.
definition of what a CAFO is. It's
Yeah, the
specified.
issues that people like, even though we like, you can show them the text of the bill, how it's going to come in the ballot,
Yeah.
like they still don't trust you. And that's the thing, that again, like these systems are very persuasive and have
Yeah.
everything on their side, like the status quo, everything, all the money is there.
Yeah. I'm glad for the press team that we have, people like Cassie, because a lot of what Cassie has been doing for the last like month or so is trying to correct misinformation that is put out in the Sonoma media. Um, there's also a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah, no,
media that,
Cassie's one of you know people that I most admired. And yeah, I mean, being on press is just very challenging.
yeah,
But also it's been exciting because we are trying to get a lot of press to get the facts out there, to say you are being lied by this bureau of corporations that are disgustingly corrupt
yeah,
and that are, criminally abusing animals in like horrible ways,
yeah,
getting so many tax money from their avian influenza situations that are brewing at their farms.
hmm
So yeah, it really okay. Like I'm getting mad. So
You're getting
maybe we
mad.
should switch. Maybe we should switch the topic.
Switch topics. Let's talk about the trial then, because that won't make you mad.
Oh no, no. Let's continue talking
Yeah,
about.
let's. Well,
No, I mean I'm traumatized. Like
yeah,
we could all
traumatized.
say that we've been traumatized by the Sonoma County courthouse.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in that courthouse. And like I said, you were there a lot of times. There were times when you were the only person in the room. And then
Yeah,
Judge Laura Pasalia would be berating Wayne a lot of the
Wayne.
time
Yeah, that
for,
was so like that experience. At the end, I felt grateful for being there because I was literally the only one with Wayne
hmm
and
yeah,
Pasaglia roasting him, and me
yeah,
taking notes of all the quotes because we still tweeted that day. And she was
yeah,
so mad because she was like, I'm retiring, people taking notes, like this barbaric, like illegal,
hmm
like
It was
how
funny
do
to
you
me that
say,
she
like
couldn't,
court court rules that were just being like, now we are filing a motion for you to stop speaking and to stop bringing people with nose, and Murray is banned, and this
yeah.
and this and
Well, you weren't the only one taking notes, but there was definitely a few days where you were the only person in the room. I remember there was one day I couldn't come or didn't come for like that day, and I think it was just you and Wayne in the courtroom. A lot of times it was me and Wayne getting berated by the judge, Wayne getting berated by the judge, and me just looking on. And yeah, there was one time when I did have like a look on my face, and Judge Pasalia addressed me and said, "What's the issue?" And I was like,
what's
well,
the issue, Jeremy Lowe?
yeah,
What, why the fuck are you laughing? Do you want to be banned of my courtroom?
she did ban me out of her courtroom. Yeah, but it was towards the end. It
I
was like
had
in the last
forgotten
few
about
days.
that. You were banned too. I mean, at this point, everyone was banned. Like,
Everybody
dude,
was banned.
like,
Yeah. Well, we hung out with Camila. Is Camila around? Are we going to see Camila during this interview or no?
You could, yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
just
let's
let me
see.
position.
Yeah, that's my friend. She's so sweet. She wants ice cubes. Look at her wagging.
Oh, do you see her there?
Yes. She's so sweet.
Yeah,
She made that Sonoma trial so much better just to
she
have
did.
her around.
She did. She did.
Yeah. A lot of times I would come back. I would stay at the legal Airbnb after the trial started, but I would come back on the weekends and see you and Camila. I definitely want to ask you about the upcoming convergence. So, right now, as you said, that there's this ballot measure. So, actually, you're trying to organize or have organized a convergence that's going to take place. When is it? Is the 24th? Do I have that date right?
I can even tell you the day.
Yeah.
So it's Friday the 23rd
Okay.
till Tuesday the 27th.
Okay. And if people sign up for that, what can they expect?
Well, so basically, this convergence is around, again, the most important campaign
Hmm.
happening, which is shutting down factory farms in Sonoma County. So we are going to be doing a lot of trainings that are related to CAFOs, which is again concentrated animal feeding operations, which is the legal EPA definition name of factory farms. There's going to be canvassing and just like the a lot of opportunities to talk to voters and try to get the facts out there, because the opposition again is campaigning with trying to campaign with hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to defeat the truth and for people to be finding out what is happening at their factory farms.
Yeah. Yeah. So people are going to be knocking on doors and trying to get the word out.
Yeah,
And
I mean, not a lot of knocking doors, but also
mhm.
doing outreach, banner drops, protests.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I guess not a lot of protests, but in some way of like protest outreaching,
Hmm.
tablings, mhm,
Almira said that you've been on the phones a lot,
trainings.
huh? You've been doing a lot of phone work.
Yeah, phone banking has been a great experience and
Hmm.
kind of tactic to learn how to do too,
Yeah.
because a lot of the ballots that are being proposed in the specific states in the United States, that's how they work. So getting people, we have been training organizers in the country to learn more about this tactic and
Hmm.
doing more deep canvassing, which is one of the tactics to do when you are door knocking or just doing some type of outreaching. It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily has to do with doors, like you could also be doing it at a event,
Hmm.
like a parade or whatever. But yeah, just using those tactics to bring the heat to the opposition.
Yeah.
And
um,
basically, more than that, just like promoting Measure J. Um,
oh, Measure J. Yeah, exactly. How has your experience been on the phone so far? Have the people been nice or they been
I've
receptive?
encountered, I've encountered opposition. I've encountered like doubts
Hmm. Hmm.
in some people, but also support.
That's cool.
Same as kind of what people have been getting at door knocking. I mean, I've been going door knocking too. So yeah, sometimes people are like super mad that you are there, and you're like, okay, yes on Jay, bye. And the
Yeah.
person is kind of like, fuck you, I hate you, don't come to my door.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, believe me, like this is just not my cup of tea, but
Hmm.
I have to do it because you have to
Yeah.
learn about this that you will be voting
Right.
starting
Right.
October.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I found like when I was doing like political work that the phones were like where people were much more rude because like when I was actually like on
mm,
people's doorsteps, they were usually like a little more nice. You know, I encountered some people who are rude to me, but not as bad. Are they? Is that the case with you? And I assume like when you're doing like door to door, you have like a partner with you walking around, right?
I've done it alone. I've done it
Hmm.
with partners. I've done some lead dropping.
Leaflet
That
dropping, or
basically
right,
is,
right.
we call it lit,
Oh, lit
Lit,
dropping. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
lit dropping.
Lit dropping. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing that. I also went to this parade of 4th of July
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
Sonoma County that was kind of like being in Iowa,
Mm,
and like very Republican vibes,
mm,
and it was a funny experience.
yeah. Being in
A lot of,
Iowa. Yeah.
I mean, also I love Iowa. I didn't mean to kind of say it in a pejorative way,
Yeah, yeah. Just more like
but
political, right? Like it
just like
being more
talking
conservative,
about like rural conservative.
rural. Right, right.
But I also think that being a Democrat doesn't necessarily mean that you are up for, animal rights or a lot
Yeah,
of
totally.
the laws that people are trying to pass to protect women and um,
Yeah.
immigrants. So yeah, I mean, most people in Sonoma, and I feel that also most of these people are Democrats.
Hmm.
Might also
Yeah.
be a combination of Republicans, but just to say that, they are in the animal agriculture industries too, and
Yeah.
they are fighting really hard and trying to get activists, or to put activists in prison.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Democrats are often just as bad as Republicans on animal rights.
yeah, of
It's
course,
yeah, it's sometimes it's really kind of depressing. Um yeah, you can just look around the
the
country like
world the
yeah,
world is a sad place.
I know. Like for instance, like New York City banned foie gras, right? And then the
Mhm.
Democratic governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul, sued them. And well, I'm not sure if I have that exactly right. They were
Like, let's
sued,
put the
and
resources
yeah,
of taxpayers into this stupid thing that is so cruel and vile,
right,
like foie
right.
gras.
Yeah, but you would think like a Democrat running a dark blue state like New York would probably be on board. I would have thought back in the day they would be on board with banning
Mm.
something like foie gras, but instead, no. She's just as much of a pawn for the animal agriculture industry as anybody else. So it's depressing. And yeah, I mean, the people who are throwing Wayne in jail, the people who are prosecuting Zoe, a lot of them are Democrats. And yeah, like you said, in Sonoma County, it's a lot of Democrats. I mean, California is a blue state, but it's also like a huge dairy producing state. Actually, it's the
Yeah,
number one dairy state, I think, isn't it? I think it is. Yeah.
I don't know about that. But it sounds like, because Wisconsin used to be the number one, but then I think it was beaten.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, also huge egg producer, and it's
Hmm.
exactly the cage-free, humane eggs that a lot of people buy in other states. That is like, oh, California, so
Yeah.
progressive, Prop 12, and
Hmm.
I mean, well, a lot of people might know or not about Prop 12, but they still just so misguided by Sunrise Farms.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Petaluma Poultry, who also have egg farms. It's like, it's just this huge corporation
Yeah.
sending you this way more expensive, just
Hmm.
telling you that is has all these certifications that are just made up.
Right, right. Well, DXC, one of the things that impresses me is just the worldwide impact that DXC has had. I met some activists. I was in Korea. I met some activists there who
Wow.
were, I think they
When
were,
was that?
that was probably 5 years ago. And DXC Soul yet, but a lot of those people became DXC Soul because I would see them in photos later on. And those are some of the most impressive activists that I've met. So you've got a chapter in Seoul, you've got a chapter in Paris. I know you've got
Well,
chapters.
many chapters have come and go, like
Hmm.
kind of taken a hiatus,
Mm.
coming back, then kind of closing, organizers moving to another state or country, and then they open a chapter there. So currently, we don't have chapters in Asia at all.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
But
weird.
people can always look at our chapters going to our website, directactioneverywhere.com. That's where
Yeah.
we always list that's
Mm.
related or connected to our database, where we always update the chapters. Like you see this beautiful map with all the
Mm.
uh, points of cities and towns where DXC operates.
And can I ask you about your family? Like, because you did post a photo of your mother, I think, or your father. I can't remember, but she or he looked
Yeah.
like you. I remember. Yeah. What was it like growing up? What was little Michelle like?
I think that what you referred is a photo of my dad that I posted
Yeah.
when he was young, or like when he graduated from college. I definitely look like my mom. A lot of people say that I'm her, but younger. But I think that I also have a few things of my dad. But yeah, I mean, my family lives in Mexico City. My sister is vegan too. My mom, kind of, yes, but she doesn't
Ish.
really assume herself as a vegan.
Mm, okay.
Um, but yeah, we all have rescued animals. We all just really try to do something for animals in our communities.
Mm. Is that because of
So
you?
yeah,
Are you the reason that your family
I
is?
th- I think that I was an influence, a big influence, but I think that also the animals that they rescued in some way kind of made them connect too,
Mm.
to just thinking that, we worry about these animals, that they need shelter, that they should not be abused, violated, in many other horrible things. And same as with pigs, same as with rabbits, same as with rats, reptiles, crocodiles. So yeah, my family has always been super supportive,
Mm.
because I think they also believe in animal rights. They also believe in feminism. They also believe in immigrants' rights,
Mhm.
in gay and lesbian rights.
Mhm. So it's a
Um,
very progressive family that you had. And is your
a very liberal family, as
very
people
liberal
would say.
family. Yeah, yeah. Is your
We
sister
also
older or
like
younger?
grunge and rock.
Oh, your
And a
mom
lot
likes
of
that
my
too?
music taste comes from my sister, because
Oh,
she's 10
really?
years older than me.
10 years older. Okay.
So, you know, Spice Girls
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and Alanis Morissette and the Cranberries and
It's like my era of music. Yeah.
Depeche Mode. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Um, were you guys close, you and your sister? Because that's a pretty big gap, 10 years.
It is a big gap. We I think we have become closer more as adults, and especially animal rights has been something that has really brought us together, as well
Mm,
as feminism. Like, she's a person that I could discuss and have really in-depth conversations and about existentialism and what's life and what
mm.
about these animals and what about these women, and just everyday things that are happening. Um,
Is she
so
also an activist?
she's not really an activist, but she has come to events
Mm,
and supports, but she herself doesn't do activism.
I see. Well, they must be proud of you for fighting for all these causes that you believe in. Does your mom talk to you about it? Does she tell you how proud she is of you sometimes?
Yeah, Yeah, she definitely says that, and she has visited me.
Mhm.
I mean, they both have come and they have attended meetups. Actually, my mom, last time that she was here, we went to one of the Sonoma hearings. So she was in the courthouse,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was really cool. I'm like, just check this place. You have to come to the Sonoma courthouse. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there's nothing like this place.
So this was after this wasn't part of the trial then.
This was after,
Oh,
for the
okay.
hearings of Rocky,
Mm,
Zoe, Conrad, who were also arrested in that
mhm.
very dramatic telenovela arrest that I was able to photograph, and which I'm very proud of, because
Yeah.
those shots from Zoe getting arrested are so fucking cool. And
Yeah.
that's when she got an ankle monitor too.
I think you've taken the photo of my YouTube channel. Like my YouTube profile photo is a photo that you took of me with a dog when that was the day that we got to be surrounded by all these beagles who had been
Yeah,
rescued.
at the Dane for Dogs
Yeah.
event with the Envigo Beagles reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved being surrounded by these beautiful rescued dogs from such horrible industry.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so powerful to meet those people that they all have changed the lives of these animals, as well as their lives have also changed. That's how a lot of people have found out about animal rights, and veganism is also from the animal experimentation industry, as it
Yeah.
kind of used to be more in the early days of the animal rights movement.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I was very, very sad and defeated that we didn't have that trial.
Hmm. Me
I
too.
I really I really wanted it to happen. And
Yeah.
again, the industry took that away from us
Hmm.
because they're scared. And in some way I could see how that's a victory, but in some other ways, like, we just want to get in record or on record these horrible crimes against dogs.
Yeah.
And many times we have said, dogs are not treated as cows, and it's like, well, wait, that's a lie. All
Hmm.
animals just suffer horribly, immensely in this system.
Yeah.
They are used for the entertainment industry, for for experimentation, for
Yeah.
food. Like, people in Mexico eat dogs too. Like, it is a thing.
Yeah. Is it not very widespread? Because I don't hear about it as much as like when you talk
Well,
about like
it's just like
Korea or China.
it's more like a thing of the hood. It's not a thing like
Mm.
in China or other Asian countries, where, I mean, South Korea, where you
Hmm.
see some type of booths with
Right.
that, like a market, like street markets full of that. And here is more like, again, there's so many abandoned and neglected dogs on the streets in Mexico,
Hmm.
that sometimes people are killing them and just selling them very cheap in
Mm.
tacos.
Yeah.
And that's just one of, like, how do you say, like a public myth, where I haven't precisely see a taquero just killing a dog and put like making that a taco, but I just know it's a thing.
It's a thing
um
that happens. Yeah.
and that, if they don't eat them, they still face horrible crimes like sexual abuse, rape,
Hmm.
just forcibly breeding them. They get beaten, they get boiled, they get killed, they get mutilated. Like, all of these horrible
Yeah.
things that happen to chickens and cows and pigs are just happening to dogs too. In houses of families that are just
Yeah.
horrible.
Well, you just named one example, but I was going to ask you, like, what are some issues that are specific to Mexico that people in America might not as know about as much? And it could be even beyond the animal rights movement, but what about the
Yeah.
animal rights movement? Are there issues like one that you just mentioned? and then also other issues that are specific to that region.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's good to understand it as an ecosystem. Like Mexico is a huge ecosystem, or has so many violence ecosystems all put together. And we are just a society that is very used to seeing life being degraded in war, like in really, really horrible and low ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially in the last decades, where the quote unquote war against the narco that Felipe Calderon, the president of Mexico, kind of started. So there's just an epidemic of violence to humans, happening between humans, and also to like femicides, where you find women left in the streets, chopped,
Mm.
mutilated, and these type of things, where you cannot just go. I wouldn't be able to go around and say, hey, women are not mutilated and chopped as cows, or because it's like, actually it is happening. And you could see a lot of the documentaries, and the stuff about narcos, and some of the glorification that I kind of hate towards them,
Mm-hmm.
but they
Mm-hmm.
could be very static. And in some way, this is very related to the slaughterhouses, because when we were there, a lot of these workers are also very poor men, could be
Mm-hmm.
immigrants from Central America, which have it in some ways way worse than in Mexico, or they are kind of running away from there, and Mexico is kind of like the only like last chance to try to move somewhere, because they cannot make it to the United States. um, but all of that is so connected. And again, as I said, some of the owners of these slaughterhouses or of these farms are just narcos that are involved in just very deep levels of like dirt, that
Mm-hmm.
involves senators, mayors, the police, the military,
Mm.
corporations. Like so many corporations from the United States, from Europe, Canada are just preying on resources in Mexico, including like factory farms, which are, as we know, such a huge suck of resources.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I feel that the industries in Mexico, they are all in some way similar to here. Like we got a lot of animal agriculture that is horrible. We have horse slaughterhouses. We have a lot of, I guess, animal control facilities that just euthanize so many dogs and cats. We also have a lot of experimentation going on in the universities,
Mm-hmm.
in La UNAM, which is the worldwide recognized university in Mexico, in Mexico City. That is same as like, oh, Harvard, and so like prestigious and all of that, but inside their facilities are horrible experiments against animals happening every day that are
Mm-hmm.
so vile. um yeah, and you also have dogfights, like dogfighting rings, and you also have a lot of religious groups buying animals from live markets and just torturing them and doing
Hmm.
rituals, like
Oh yeah.
sacrifice rituals. In
Mm.
Mexico City, we have a lot of live markets, like which are one of the worst places I've ever been in my life, and
Mm-hmm.
that I just don't wanna ever go back, because they have such a dark, dense vibe. Because a lot of the people there just do black magic and all of these things. Also, a lot of like cartels. It's just, again, like very horrible ecosystems
Yeah. A
going
shit
on,
show.
and
Yeah.
then a shit show. And then you have all these animals, exotic animals that are trafficking from Africa and
Mm-hmm.
Asia, that are in these markets in Mexico City. just being sold for thousands of dollars or pesos.
Mm-hmm.
um, and you go in there. We as DXC, we did many disruptions and stuff there, because when COVID exploded and it became more to the surface that live markets are so dangerous, and they are in so many places, like in Mexico City. Like, we don't have a factory farm, quote unquote, or
Mm-hmm.
like slaughterhouse, but we have a live market where you can actually slaughter animals or things like that. So that's another front. And I guess bullfighting too has been,
Yeah, I was going to
right
ask about
now.
that.
Right now, I love how strong the movement to abolish bullfighting has been in Latin America. Colombia, like, I fucking love Colombia.
Mm,
They are doing so much grassroots organizing to outlaw these horrible traditions that we kind of were imposed by colonizers like Spain, and
mhm,
Portugal and
mhm.
France. So it has been beautiful to see that we can at least make some progress to that. Um, but
Didn't Mexico
we
City
also,
ban it?
so actually it was outlawed in Mexico City many years ago. But then these people, like all the bullfighting community, which is, a lot of, how do you say, like rich white people in Mexico,
Mhm, mhm,
that are very just attached to their Spanish European blood side.
mhm.
And
Right, right.
yeah, did they just violated the law,
Hmm,
literally did an illegal event, which was a bullfighting event, in La Plaza de Toros, which is one of the, few, how do you say, plazas where bullfighting is happening in Mexico City.
hmm.
And yeah, and they just did it, did the event
Oh,
that was
wow.
illegal. And of course the authorities do nothing, because
Wow.
it's like
Because the
the
money.
city, well, like the city, like, it's all about money. It's all about favors from politicians. A lot of politicians are in the bullfighting industry.
Wow. Yeah.
um, so yeah, I feel that that's one thing that we could just support activists a lot right now that are doing that, because they are collecting signatures. Like,
Mm,
ballot initiatives is something that, for example, in Mexico City or in Mexico
mhm,
in general doesn't exist. But we, like, this group, is using some of the, like, laws and citizen initiatives that we have to
mhm,
try to
mhm.
make the law be applied. um,
How can activists in America support those efforts? Like, I know there's probably like DXE Mexico City, like you were a part of.
mhm.
Are there other groups that people can follow that, um, or maybe even donate to if they wanted to, or something like that?
Yeah, so I think that just following them on their social media, because sometimes they post petitions. Some of these
Hmm.
petitions can be done by anyone around the world. Some are very specific to Latin American chapters. Some are very specific, or like, sorry, chapters, like
Hmm. Hmm.
people living there. Other could be just very in the city.
Hmm.
But I think that just hearing from them, contacting directly, direct action everywhere, social media, Instagram, Facebook,
Hmm.
constantly share some rescues that, for example, DXC Paris are doing. And
Yeah,
sometimes they
yeah.
have fundraisers going on to fund the veterinary care and expenses of these animals.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, I think that, also elevating, sharing their content,
Hmm.
that's also great. Like, also just messaging them and then just saying, like, hey, it's amazing the work that you're doing, because I feel that, our movement is very centralized in the United States and the UK,
Hmm.
and that's it. And it's like, no, there's like amazing stuff happening in these
Yeah.
places, and these activists are against so many things,
Hmm.
so many risks, and they are also putting their body in the line. So let's support them. Let's
Mhm.
you know, support them as much as we can.
So would you recommend people follow DXC Mexico City? Is that one of the pages, like a social media page,
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
Instagram?
DXC Mexico City, DXC
Mhm,
Bogota, DXC Montevideo,
mhm,
DXC Florianopolis, Rio de Janeiro,
mhm.
Sao Paulo.
It's a lot of chapters. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, it is, yeah, we are pride. I think a lot of the animal rights movement gets really hyper focused on Great Britain and America. I mean, and that's not to say like there isn't great work happening in those places, but yeah, there's work happening all over the world. Yeah, and you make a good point. Like a lot of people who are doing activism in places that are getting less attention from the rest of the world could probably even just use like some moral support of like, hey, we see you, like we see what you're doing. Because yeah, that
Yeah.
feeling when you do like some kind of demonstration that gets no attention. Oh yeah, I should mention I saw you on the DXE page where you disrupted Tyler Florence. Tell me about that because I also got to do that, but it was like 7 people after you.
Yeah. I guess it was a beautiful experience because it was the first disruption from this
Hmm.
year that we did to Tyler. It was the first book signing event that he was doing here in San Francisco, Union Square, and it was just so easy. Like, because of course he wasn't expecting it at all. It was the first time. So yeah,
Hmm.
I lasted the chance for so long. Some people were
You
trying to
did.
come, but they were actually pretty like chill. Like no one
Hmm.
spat on me or like nothing. They
Yeah,
just let me
yeah,
do my thing. I try to
yeah.
talk to him, just saying like, do something for the animals. Come on, man.
Hmm.
Um,
Did
but
he
yeah,
what did he look at you? Did he say anything to you?
yeah, he was looking at me and kind of responding and also trying to talk to Paul, who was filming.
Hmm.
But he was just like, ha 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 ha.
Oh yeah, just kind of dismissive. Yeah.
Like kind of having fun. And we just said like, okay, well, let's see who has fun last.
You, yeah, you did a great job. You were chanting, like you said, you were able to get out many chants. I think you were up there for at least like a minute or so, like which is a long time to be,
More like
when
two,
you're
I
doing it
think,
this.
or three.
Yeah, yeah, 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah,
That's a long
it was
time,
too
and that's
long.
no, it was
Yeah, you
great.
kind of plan to be kicked out right away, but then when you have more
Yeah,
time, you're like, okay, what should I do now?
yeah.
Like, I wish I
Well,
had some blood to like.
well, you
That
did a
would have
nice
been
job.
fucking amazing.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
said, you said to him, I remember you said, please, think of the chickens or something like
yeah,
that. It was
yeah.
similar, like, yeah, um I did one when he was at a hotel and I was expecting him to be he was giving a speech at this public relations event. So DXC was very excited about the potential of disrupting that because disrupting a public relations event where he's your keynote speaker. So anyway, but when we walked in the hotel,
Classic
we just
DXC.
yeah, we saw him there right in the hotel lobby. So we were like, okay, we've got to just do it right now because this may be our only chance. So he was walking one way. We started the chance. And then he instantly turned. He saw me, made eye contact, instantly turned around and went the other direction, gave like a little fist pump like that. And then he was gone. So it was so quick. It was
Kind of
like
like this, or how?
he did
Was he like?
like that. It's on the camera. He does like a yeah, kind of like that. I think he was like mocking me. But at first, when he saw me, he had this look of like being startled because this was his hometown actually in Greenville, South Carolina.
You came to my
So
hometown to humiliate me? How dare
yeah.
you?
So he had this like wide-eyed expression and then he instantly turned around and then I think it was just onto mocking and then they got me out of there. But yeah, it was very quick. Like I didn't have hardly any time. It was like probably 15 seconds that I had with Tyler total, something like that. Um, yeah. But then I had this hotel guy come out. They were trying to get us out of there, right? He was talking to me, and I was able to talk to that guy for quite a while. And I unrolled the banner, like the same banner that you had. And, it shows the chicken. And I was just like, please look at the chicken. And by the way, this hotel guy, he was really nice. He was a nice guy. He just wanted me to leave, but he wouldn't look at the chicken. And I was just like, please, like, just look at the chicken. Don't have these people back. Like yeah. But yeah, I was proud to join the ranks of the many people now who have disrupted Tyler Florence, because it's now up to like what, 12 or 13 disruptions, something like that.
13.
13, yeah. Lucky 13.
That
So you
went
got the ball
fast.
rolling. Yeah.
I got the ball rolling. I'm so proud
Yeah.
of myself.
Yeah, I'm proud of you too. It was good. Yeah. So like, of all the activism you've done, I'm sure that the open rescue stands out in Mexico, but what are some of the things that you thought were stood out to you and were like, do you think the most impactful that you've done over the years?
I mean, I think that also getting the ball rolling about direct action and some other types of activism, because I feel that it's very common to get stuck in the outreach, go vegan
Mm-hmm.
part. And we definitely need other strategies, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are many areas that haven't been that much explored in Mexico and in other countries, as it could be investigations and open rescues and occupations and
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah. But I feel really good about this stuff that we did.
Mm-hmm.
We really try to target many companies, corporations, facilities that are committing so many crimes against animals in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely challenging because of the risks, and because a lot of the activists and organizers are women.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's just more challenging than just being a guy talking to another guy, because a lot of the people in the industry that you're communicating, like slaughterhouse workers, and supervisors, or things like that, are or men.
Mm-hmm. And you think there's like sort of like a dismissiveness that they may have just because they're talking to a woman?
Yeah, of course, they
Mm-hmm.
don't see you as their equal, so they
Right.
are not going to treat you the same. And sometimes when you are police liaison, or when you are marshal, or you are someone that is interacting with them and kind of de-escalate, sometimes it's tricky. Is it better
Mm-hmm.
if you're a woman, or because they actually don't see you as threatening,
Mm-hmm.
or that could play totally the opposite, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fuck her up
Mm-hmm.
or
Right,
something.
right.
um,
How did you get into photography? I'm curious.
well, I started at a young age, just getting a camera, a digital camera, and also a film camera, and practicing with that, taking photos of, my everyday activities and family and trips that I
Mm-hmm.
used to do to the United States, actually. Animals that I rescued. I love a lot of self portraits too for MySpace and Hi-Fi.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I just felt like a calling, that was my way of documenting and kind of trying to save memories and specific things that were happening in my life, or that were happening to people in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and since then, I've uh, studied, I studied it basically I had it in my subjects or in my tests and essays and stuff that I needed to finalize or give in college were related to photography and videography. Um, so yeah, I kind of have been studying, practicing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I think I guess one of the main moments is that um, when when I was at a laboratory, just how do you say revealing?
Hmm.
Um,
Exposing, revealing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exposing, and it was just like so nice to be able to say, well, I want the sky to be more exposed, to be more bright, and I want my subject to be in this specific way because it just feel like something that I want to communicate. And I don't know, I just
Mm.
realized how much you can explore with photography, how
Right,
creative
right.
and open you could be by just deciding, with both film and digital, many um, tricks that you can do with light and
Hmm.
exposure and the speed. So yeah.
Way of telling the story. Yeah. So you're, I mean, you're the person behind a lot of the images that we see from DXC, right? Because you do a lot of photography.
Yeah, I documented a lot of the actions and events in some of the, historic crucial events in
Yeah.
DXC, like trials and the Animal Liberation Conference, some
Hmm.
protests, some vigils, sanctuary visits, meetings with politicians for AB 2764, and now in Sonoma too, returning the signatures.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Could you, like, after this, could you send me some of the photos that you're most proud of? And I can
yeah,
share them. Yeah, cool.
yeah.
Are there are there any are there any activists that you look up to who you think like that would be comfortable getting a shout out that um you think like should get more attention that don't have it?
I mean, I feel that in general, our movement is so centered to idealize and praise men when
Mm,
women are doing so much of that work behind
yeah,
the
sure.
scenes, such crucial work that is very important. And I do think that in general, women need to be more recognized for the work that we do. I mean, in general, like if you think about the
Yeah.
music and cinema, sports, or these areas that are dominated by men, but there are, such fighters there trying to, you know, make this movement more powerful. So I
Hmm.
think, my coworkers,
Hmm.
Kitty, Almira, Cassie, Antonelle, Carla, Susie. Like I just really, really like working with them and feel really blessed.
Yeah.
Um, Also, some of the organizers that I've met in other countries or states. Druthi from Phoenix. Um, she's really cool. She's doing
Mhm.
amazing things. Iliar and Haley in Champagne. Like I feel that I've also developed a relationship with some of the organizers that I'm mentoring or that I kind of coordinate with them, and
Mhm.
they're doing just amazing things. Like people in Colorado too with the ballot,
Right,
in
right.
Portland too. It's just amazing. In Mexico with the
Yeah.
bullfighting. My friend Sofia, who also did a lot of activism with DXC Mexico City, is doing amazing things too,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
push the ban, and also some of the activists that are running sanctuaries in Mexico, like Fernanda from Granjita TH, Frida from Santuario Goyo,
Mhm.
women who are just fighting against a lot of odds to like rehabilitate
Mhm.
abused and
Yeah.
neglected animals from diverse industries.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I feel that I have so many women to
Yeah.
shout out, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, you're right. I mean, for one, DXC is led mostly by really strong women. Um, and then, I mean, you can just look around the movement at, you've got Ingrid Newkirk, the head of PETA, you've got,
Leah
some of,
Garces
yeah,
from
exactly.
Mercy for
You've got from Mercy for
Animals.
Animals, and you have leaders all over the world, like and even some of the boldest activists. You've got people like Leah Dellinger and Tash Peterson, and some of the most bold activists have been women. And you're right. I mean, uh, I think a lot of the people that we celebrate in the movement, and I like Joey Carbstrong. I like James Aspie. I like these guys. I like a lot of these guys, Earthling Ed. But you're right that a lot of these people get a lot more attention than some of the women in the movement. And you're right. I think the vast majority of people who are animal rights activists are women. Um, and that's unfortunate. And
And
I don't necessarily know the reason for that, but I think that possibly it has something to do with, like men's like false belief that to be masculine you need to consume animals or something, or that it's weak to like care for those who are weaker than you, where to me like it is the
but
most
the praising and the recognition comes from the animal rights movement.
yeah.
So I think that the
Mhm.
reason that happens is for sexism and misogyny, because again,
Mm.
even as activists for animal rights, we could still be very racist,
Yeah,
and
true. Yeah.
misogynist, and like constantly
Yeah.
trying to harm women. We have seen it with many,
Hmm.
um, I guess, coming forwards of female activists from
Right,
male
right.
activists.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think we are completely
Right.
safe
Yeah,
and
your
or
prejudices
safe.
don't just go away. Just because you've become vegan or an animal rights activist, it doesn't mean you've changed all of your ways. Some people make the point, and I agree, that if we were all raised as vegan and we were all raised with animal rights values, then there would probably be a lot less racism and sexism. I tend to agree with that, but that doesn't mean that most people who
I feel that
were,
that's just such a strong statement based in what,
based in no.
my
Well,
opinion,
I think that if you're raising,
based in nothing.
well, I don't think it's based in nothing. I think that a lot of people point out that it's one of the first forms of bigotry that we're taught, because most kids, for instance, like they don't care about the race of the person next to them. They,
True, true. I mean,
racism
no
is.
one is born racist,
Mhm.
sexist. Like, these are ideologies that are put into us as we
Yeah,
grow up in the
yeah,
like our ecosystems, which is family, school, TV, radio, everything, and
yeah, yeah.
everything that surrounds us kind of
Hmm.
pushes these ideologies. Like,
Right.
yeah,
So then the argument would be that if you're taught, like, basically even respect the ant on the ground, then it's hard to assume that somebody who's like, I respect that ant, but I'm going to disrespect this person because they're black or female or whatever. That
yeah.
to me
I
is
mean, we just
convincing.
have so many prejudices, so
Yeah, yeah,
so many prejudice
yeah.
against many
And
things,
right, right. Yeah, and they have to
and
be
many
sort of like
people.
unlearned. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I think those are my questions, Michelle. Is there anything that we didn't bring up that you think we should talk about?
No,
No? Okay. All right. Well,
no.
great. Well, Well, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and I feel very honored to have known you for these several
Oh,
years. You're one of the people that I look up to at DXC and one of my favorite people, and that's why I always make a point of to try to hang out with you. And when I was just living in the Bay, things were so busy, and I wish that I had gotten a chance to hang out with you more. But I'm excited about the convergence. I'll be at the convergence, so hopefully we'll get to maybe
yay!
knock on some doors. And yeah, we hope that
Yeah,
everybody will sign up. I'll put a link down to sign up for the convergence. And yeah,
thank
we would
you.
love to have you. All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
Michelle.